Brian Lara used pot plants to work on his placement. John Wright glued his glove to his bat. Sachin Tendulkar dug up practice pictures. Tatenda Taibu cut the top off his bat. Claire Taylor used a hockey grip. Steve Smith was from tennis. Dean Jones would call phantom runs. And Victor Trumper turned the nets into a war zone to survive. The best batters in the world do whatever they have to make runs. We have told their stories in our new book, The Art of Batting.
Hello, and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Good Areas Live. I'm Behram Kazi, who you can find at DefMango on Twitter, and with me is Jarrod Kimber, who you can find literally everywhere. And just before we get into this review of the Oval Test, I want to tell you all that these podcasts are powered by our supporters at Patreon. You can become one of them by going to Patreon/Good Areas Podcast, and then enjoy ad-free content, talk shit to us all the time, and give us recommendations. It's all fun and games over there. And Jarrod, I mean, long live Test cricket, I suppose. It keeps delivering over and over again. I can't even remember how many shows I've started on this note. I mean, what an incredible end to an incredible 25-day-long 5-match Test series. India square the Anderson-Tendulkar Trophy 2-2 by defeating England in dramatic fashion by 6 runs at the Thriller. Or at the Oval, and I mean, this is their narrowest Test win in history. And I mean, it must have been really, really emotional for you just to be there because, oh my God, like, what the fuck have we just witnessed?
It was ridiculous. I was commentating the whole day, which is, 56 minutes. So I don't, not the longest day I've ever had to commentate, but I was commentating the whole time. And so it was really lucky that I did that. And I've been lucky on a couple of different occasions to be able to do that because you live every single moment. Right. So if you're there and you're in the press box or you're in the crowd, there's conversations or you miss something or whatever. But when you're commentating, you don't have a choice. Like, you're just locked in. And so it was like, I'm in the front row of the outdoor press box. So I'm literally hanging over the ground. Right. And you just feel like you're on the ground and you're in the crowd at the same time. And you're watching every single micro thing that is going on in the ground. It was, I think it's the best hour of cricket I've ever been involved with. I mean, maybe there's some on TV that I've seen better. I was obviously at the 2019 World Cup, and I was at the 2026 Carlos Brathwaite one as well, and the Headingley, a couple of incredible test matches between England and Sri Lanka as well. Like, just things that came down to the end. But I don't think I've ever been in a situation where so many different things were happening at the same time. For that hour, if you throw in Will Woakes bat, how will he bat, and that side of it as well.
Will his shoulder fall off? Because at one point it seemed like that might happen. Exactly.
The LBWs, being given out or not being reviewed, right? Just the whole, when Atkinson at one stage just starts running and Josh Tongue doesn't know he's running, like just all these different things are going on and on. Yeah. It's just absolutely, crazy to have been there and lived through this.
Yeah, well, I'm slightly envious because that was one of the most dramatic and enthralling finishes to a test match that I've ever witnessed on TV, and you were there in the flesh. And I mean, even the build-up to day 5, we were not supposed to get a day 5. This was supposed to be a 24-day test series. And I mean, yesterday, when rain comes and we're like, okay, now we're going to get the heavy roller, but India will have fresher legs, at least their seamers will. I mean, 35 runs, what was it, 4 wickets, something like that. The game was on a knife's edge. And, what I find remarkable, Jarrod, is that prior to the start of this series, I was thinking, all right, Jasprit Bumrah is going to play 3 test matches, and those 3 test matches are India's best shot. They don't win a single one of those tests, and they draw this series 2-2, winning the games in which he doesn't feature, which is like an anomaly for the ages. You cannot explain it.
Yeah, it's funny, actually. There was a point at which they were losing yesterday. I can't remember who it was, but someone in the press box said to me, maybe this will just shut people up about the Bumrah thing. Like, it was almost like, if we're going to lose, fine. But at least now no one will go on about Bumrah, and then of course they come back from nowhere.
Yeah.
They've done this by picking the wrong bowling attack, really, right? They didn't have enough seam bowling available to them. They had to completely rinse Siraj until I don't even know how he could continue to bowl, honestly.
Honestly, man.
Akash was dead yesterday. Prashi Krishna he was a shell as well, and they absolutely rinsed those guys in the way that they usually rinse Bumrah, right? Like it's like they spread the rinsing out this time rather than it just being on one person. And as you said, there's no way you would have ever thought that this would be 2-2 and that India would have won the matches without Bumrah, even if you know that stat, right? And whether you believe it or not is another thing. But if you know that stat, no one will put their money on that because it's such a stupid thing to have happen.
Yeah, and I mean, England only have themselves to blame for this one because, look, you drop 5 catches in the third inning, it's going to come back and haunt you. Harry Brook dropped Jaiswal on 20, then Dawson drops Jaiswal on 40. He goes on to score 118, finishing the series the way he started, with a ton. And first it was Jaiswal dropping catches, then people are dropping Jaiswal. But then England also dropped Sai Sudarshan on 7, Akash Deep on 21, who goes on to score a bonus knock of 66, and Karan Nair has also dropped on 12. So even if they managed to hang on to one of those catches, the result could have been different. But then again, India dropped catches in the first test. India dropped catches in this test, for crying out loud, right? 2 in the first innings, Pope and Atkinson, and then there was the dramatic Siraj Harry Brook drop 6, and then the Akash Gus Atkinson drop 6 towards the end. So I mean, all things considered, I feel like 2-2 is a very apt result because both teams had holes, both teams were flawed, they did capitalize in certain sessions, in certain stages. And ultimately, I feel like no one deserved to win this series. So I'm quite satisfied with 2-2.
Yeah, it's funny. Me and Jeremy Coney were doing a video for TalkSport, and we both, he paused as he said, I felt 2-2 was, and I just said fair, and then he said fair, almost straight away. And the general consensus, and I talked to a couple of fans afterwards, and also, people in the press box was, there wasn't much between these teams. And these were English people and Indian people. Everyone was sort of saying, India could have been ahead. And if you have a look, 2 of these test matches are 2 of the closest test matches in the history of the game. Right? A 22, was it 22 runs, 20 runs, whatever it was at Lord's, 6 runs 22. Here. You don't get many test matches like that to begin with. You then have that incredible, drawn match as well.
Yeah.
England do that chase. India have that dominant game in the middle. You just don't get these sorts of things all that often. And India had plenty of chances to be in this series. Yeah. And they really, the last 6 days, or 6.5 days of this series, had to claw their way back in, right? To get to this position. But if you go before those days, they had plenty of chances to be either up or level in this series, right?
In an
and they
alternate
just didn't
universe,
play the cricket they needed.
Yeah, in a parallel universe, they would have actually won this 4-0 because I feel like India at times were more dominant. And of course, England have their phases as well and they bat really well. But honestly, all things considered, this has been one of the most exhilarating test series that I have ever witnessed, let alone covered. And I mean, the Ashes 2005 comes to memory. Even the 2023 Ashes was really, really grueling. But over here, both teams or cricketers from both sides, they put their bodies on the line. It got quite heated on and off the field. They left absolutely everything out there. Fucking Gautam Gambhir is feuding with the groundsman prior to the game. And then you get moments which I can't even keep track of, right? Akash Deep is putting his arm around Duckett, and then we have the whole Prasid versus Root thing. There was so much drama that this was like a real-time soap opera.
Yeah, it was. It wasn't probably. It's funny because I've written about 5 pieces in the last 2 days and only published 2 of them. But it wasn't probably like the Border Gavaskar, what was that, 2021, the one that went off, that one. That one was probably more bizarre and weird and whatever. But this had the 2 close matches, right? And I do mean close matches. So I know that one had some great moments, obviously, as well. But it had 1 close match and 1 draw. This one actually had 3 close matches, I suppose, depending on how you want to look at the.
Yeah, you add the first one to it. You add what was before? Yeah, Headingley was close, Lords was close, and then the Oval was quite close as well.
Yeah, so it's not 05. I don't know what it was about 05. 05, I think one of the differences in 05 is that it was a form of cricket that we hadn't seen before. As in both teams were playing in a way that was sort of England were attacking and we'd never seen them do that before. There was England were trying to then stop Australia from being attacking, right? So it was a more interesting series for the history of the game strategically. Then you've got the emotions and the way the public picked it up because it was free to air. This one is more for hardcore cricket fans. India might feel differently, but England didn't. It didn't quite grab England, the way that even sometimes other Indian series have, right? It just didn't quite grab them in the same way.
Yeah.
So, you can always tell when you're in the UK how often you're being asked to go on and do interviews with non-cricket publications and things like that, right? And I wasn't asked to do any. So it isn't like '05. I don't know what it was about '05 that was so magical, but it just kept having great moments. This isn't far off, though. Right?
No,
because of this
not.
final test, because of the way, as I said, maybe even you want to say the last 6.5 days, because of that sort of dragging it all back, it really is, I don't know where it lands in the greatest test series of all time, but it's got a conversation to have with it, right?
Definitely.
And it was funny because I remember talking to John Norman, and when it was 2-1, and it was really close at Lords, John was like, what's going to happen now? What usually happens in 5 test series, the home team sort of kicks away, the away team gets injuries and they fall apart. And it's like, we're going to have this really good 3 test series, but a really dull 5 test one. And that is generally what happens. He's right.
Yeah.
This one just didn't do that. And it kicked again. And it kicked really hard and violently and everything else. I don't think the cricket was as attractive as the '05 Ashes as well, partly because it was such a run dominant series. So, and if you love runs, maybe this is really high. But for someone like me, who probably likes, wickets and everything else a little bit more. But it was a fantastic test series. There's no doubt about that.
I mean, we had that super chat over here by Vibhor, who was, bringing up that comparison with Ashes '05. Look, Ashes '05 made people fall in love with cricket. That was slightly different. But whilst I do believe that the quality of cricket in that series might have been a bit more high, it's not like this was low. Sure, you can make a case that bowlers were run down to the ground or whatever, but it was really, really hard fought, and both teams fought tooth and nail.
It wasn't low.
Everything they had.
And there, look, I mean, Shubman Gill and Ben Stokes.
Yes.
Jadeja's 2 efforts, just off the top of my head. Mohammed Siraj in the last day and a half, some of Harry, we're not even mentioning Harry Brook, who was, and Root, right? Like, there were some otherworldly performances in this as well. But just maybe you're comparing it to possibly one of the greatest test series of all time, and it may be slightly worse than that. But I just don't know if you were watching the last hour last night and the first hour today, or the last 2 hours at Lords, I just don't know if you'd feel that way. Like, I mean, sorry, I should say, if you're neutral and so not even a neutral, if you're non-cricket fan and you're watching any of those, I just think you fall in love with Test cricket. Like, if you are, it's so they were so multi-layered, and they had different kinds of tensions and everything else. It's funny. I was talking to Coney on air when we were commentating, and he was going, "Oh, this is so tense." And I was like, "You've batted in one of these. You had a 10th wicket partnership to win a test match against, was it Pakistan, I think, where they needed 50 to win for the 10th wicket, and they won, right?" And he said, "Yeah, weirdly, this, I don't know, maybe it's the fuller crowd, or maybe it's just, because there's a difference between a creep up one. That was a creep up one, right? Where you're just like, oh, well, we'll lose this wicket soon, so these runs don't count. Oh, they're getting a little bit closer, whatever." This was the opposite. This was almost the creep back, where there's no way England can lose this. Oh my God, now it's calamity, now it's chaos. And that's a different kind of tension, whereas the Ben Stokes or Pereira style ones are a little bit like, some of it is, well, eventually he's going to go out, isn't he? Because that's always what happens. Whereas this was just like, are they ever going to find a run again? Like, and India are going to be able to get the wickets at the right time. Is Atkinson literally going to edge the ball over Jarrell's head for 6 and tie this test match? Like, it was just so exhilarating and unpredictable all the way through.
And I mean, it's not just the cricket that was on offer, even the off-field stuff. It just wouldn't stop, right? It wouldn't cease to exist. I mentioned the Gambhir versus Lee Fortis feud, but we had like the big finish in Manchester where we have Handshake Gate and Milestone Gate. And then, of course, there's the time-wasting stuff, and there's the softballs with the Dukes, and, India losing 15 tosses in a row. They throw that in there, right? I don't think I mentioned that to you when I was spamming you earlier. But overall, like Norman said, I suppose it did get to that point, Jarrod, with injuries did kind of, handicap both teams. I mean, India lost Rishabh Pant, Jarrell came in, Bumrah wasn't fit enough, so Prasad is back, Akashdeep is in for Kamboj. And
Right
England,
now, right now, I would say that probably made the series better, right? Because it gave you more people. And I'm working on a piece at the moment, which basically says that '05 Ashes doesn't happen if McGrath doesn't stand on the cricket ball.
Yeah.
Right?
Fair.
And so, Bumrah being tired allowed for Siraj. Right? Like, these things, man. Bumrah bats the way he does at Lords, at least in part because he's frustrated with this whole idea that he doesn't win test matches. So all the narrative kind of works together. What happens in this test match if Stokes plays? Maybe it's different again.
Exactly.
So
I mean, I feel that India weren't as impacted with losing Bumrah and Pant because when England lose Jofra and Stokes, they bring in Bethel and Overton to fill in for Stokes, and that's like, reducing players, honestly, from your team because they didn't even give half the output or a quarter of the output of Ben Stokes in this series. And I agree, like, it just made things more dramatic, and I feel like we pretty much got the perfect finish. Like, it was kind of fairy tale stuff for a neutral, and history will remember this series for many reasons.
No doubt. There's no doubt. It was... I don't know where it ends up. I'm way too close to it. I know I talked to Tim Wigmore. I think he's running a piece for the Telegraph, and he goes, where does this count in, the greatest non-Ashes series of all time? Because he's writing it from an English perspective. And I was like, it's pretty high, man. It's pretty high. Like, I mean, that's the truth of it is like that. And we don't finish 5 test series like this, right? Even if you go back to '05, it's, exhilarating watching KP. And if he'd gone out, who knows? Maybe we would have ended up with a similar kind of thing to this.
Yeah.
But we ended up with
dropped,
this.
Right? Yeah, the Shane Warne dropped. That's what
happens. Yeah, but after that, he continues to bat, right? Do you know what I mean? Eventually the game, I don't want to say fizzles out, but it doesn't have the same snap on it. This had more snap in the last hour than at any time during the series. And it wasn't a series without snap all the way through it.
Yeah. That's true. Anyway, more on this test and some performances. But before that, we will be taking a short break. You guys are watching Good Areas Live with Jarrod and Behram. And go nowhere because we will be back in like half a minute.
I once made a pair in a club game, which is almost impossible to do. But I have been obsessed with batting my entire life. And so I put that into my new book, The Art of Batting. Being that I'm not very good at that skill, I decided to talk to other people who were. So I hit up as many contacts as I could just to talk about batting. Rahul Dravid, Brian Lara, A.B. de Villiers, Kumar Sangakkara, Ross Taylor, Susie Bates, Nasser Hussain, Ian Chappell, and so many, many, many more. I wanted batters to talk about how they and their friends made runs, because that is the art of batting.
Welcome back to Good Areas Live. You guys are with Behram and Jarrod, and we are talking about India's thrilling 6-run victory at the Oval, which allowed them to square the series. And Jarrod, I mean, we've seen a lot of flat decks this entire series. The only instance prior to this test match where we got some non-flat decks were the last 2 batting innings at Lords. But at the Oval, you had overcast skies for a lot of the game. There was a green
which
deck
don't do
at
anything,
the
as Aaron Briggs tells us.
I suppose so, but there was
It was dark.
Green...
I'll tell you this, it was really dark at that ground quite a lot, which is my new theory that I keep throwing to Aaron Briggs is I don't think it makes the ball swing anymore. I just don't think people pick it up very well.
Yeah, fair. We'll definitely look into that. But, well, the surface was very visibly green, and I initially thought that, hey, this is going to be going to end up as a flat deck. But no, the ball was nipping around. There was even some swing on offer. And the first 2 batting innings are tough. Then the surface kind of eases out, and the outfield is also kind of sluggish. But generally, batting becomes easier. Do you think this was the best surface in the series? Because I do.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I suppose Lords was hard to make runs on and hard to get wickets. It was an interesting cricket. Yeah, I suppose this was. It allowed you to bowl. I probably took the spinners out of it a little bit too much, don't you think? if you really want to be picky. That doesn't mean it wasn't the best surface though. So I don't want to shit on it from that point of view. But
I think you're
but
right.
no, it probably
because
was. It probably gave us the best cricket.
Edgbaston had the most degrees of, or not Edgbaston, Headingley had the most degrees of turn, I believe. And I mean, India don't play Kuldeep Yadav in a single game because Gautam Gambhir is obsessed with all-rounders and also left-right combinations. But yeah, I mean, look, I feel that there was in this test match, we had the most even contest between bat and ball throughout. And even when the surface eased for batting, it's not like it became an out-and-out flat deck. Like the odd ball would still do things, right?
No, there was probably a couple of sessions where the ball didn't swing, and that's when I think it showed that the wicket actually was pretty flat, if that makes sense. So if you go back to when Akashdeep made his runs, I thought the pitch was pretty flat at that stage. And there were certainly times when Brook and Root were batting where I thought it was pretty flat. But then what would happen afterwards is the ball would just start swinging again, right? And these weren't replacement balls. It was the same, and it wasn't reverse either. There was some reverse. I think England got some reverse at one stage. But I don't think that was reverse what we were seeing earlier. I think that was conventional swing. And so that's what it was. It looked like outside of, three partnerships, the opening partnership of England, Brook and Root, and the Akash, who's he batting with? Jaiswal.
Yeah,
Other than those three periods, the ball pretty consistently swung all the way through. And I kept saying to everyone, felt like there's a wicket between 20 runs and 40 runs. Around that area. And so that is a really entertaining test, right? Because it means you can't look away because there is a wicket coming, but also batters can still score.
Yeah, and you know what I find really fascinating is that probably in the toughest batting conditions in this entire series, Karun Nair finally gets his second 50-plus score, right? He scores that 57 when it's tough out there, and now people are after him to have him sacked from the team and whatnot. But anyway, there were other performers with the bat as well. Of course, Crawley got 64 of 57, and Duckett had a 43 of 38 and also 54. I feel like
that
Crockett...
partnership's almost forgotten now.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like Crockett is really unsung as a pair because they probably averaged like 50 plus as a pair. And
it honestly looked that was it. That was the whole series when they were batting together. And for India to pull, give them credit for the way they went about it. And then for India to pull back from that is also remarkable.
Yeah, really, because at lunch on that, what was it, second day when England are 109 for 1 or something, you're like, okay, this is over, right? Might as well, have some fun moments because this is going to be a one-sided test, and it's not that. And since we're mentioning, certain players showing a lot of fight, throw in Ravindra Jadeja. He was fantastic all series, 650-plus scores, including a ton. And in this game also, he scores that 53. He crosses that 500-run mark for the series. And then my man, Smashington Sundar, 39 ball 50. 53 or 46. And I mean, if you really think about it, right, the margin at the end or the deficit that England lose by is like 1 Washington 6 and he scored plenty, or one of those 5 wides by Josh Tongue.
Oh, I hadn't even thought about that. Fuck, this was a wild test match when you put all those details in, but you're right. Yeah,
it was insane. Just on Josh Tongue, though, such a fascinating spell of bowling, right? Of course, England lose Woke, so Gus Atkinson and Tongue end up bowling a lot. And if you look at, Tongue's bowling, he was bowling a lot of filth. He was very erratic, very wavered. And yet he produces those two Dale Steyn-esque deliveries, identical ones that get rid of Sai and Jadeja. He pins Karun Nair LBW as well. So that 3 for 57 is actually probably better than his 5 for 125 in the next innings because he takes those crucial wickets. And Josh Tongue, of all people, picks up an 8 for. On the other end, Gus Atkinson does the same in his first test match. 5 for 33 in 21.4 overs, which is spotless. That's like an entire highlight reel. And then 3 for 127. Just tell me, as good as those two guys were, one consistently and one in patches, how much did the Vokes injury impair England?
It probably allowed for India to know that they only had to weather spells. So there was an aspect of that I think really allowed for them. And it would be interesting. I don't think this was probably... if we've now said that swing was probably the main weapon. I know the wobble ball took a few wickets as well, but swing was probably the main weapon. Yeah, outside of day one, swing was a really important weapon. You have a look at Overton. He kept himself, even though he didn't always bowl well, he kept himself in the game because of his ability to swing it, right?
Yeah.
Wokes is a wobble ball bowler now, but he can still swing the ball. If that's the case, not having a swing bowler is probably a pretty massive deal. And it allowed for maybe the Washington explosion happens as much as anything, because the bowlers are tired when that comes on, and they look for the cheap way of getting rid of them, which is, the way they go about it, but they're not quick enough to be able to do that because they're bowled so much. Look, it's huge. I don't think it's any more. I mean, if England had taken their catches, they would have been chasing, well, anywhere between 200 and 280 rather than what they were chasing, right? Like
they don't like it that way. Jarrod, they love those 370 scores.
but you know what I mean? They would have chased a lot easier if they just taken their catches. So
that's true.
We can point to Wokes, but we can also point to the catches.
Yeah, I feel that's fair. And I mean, England, they should have gotten more than a 23-run lead also, I feel. And then when they concede 396 in the third innings, that's a touch too much. And 5 drop catches is a lot, right? Anyway, let's talk a bit about Joe Root. He was brilliant once again, 29 and 105. So here's some fun stats for you. He has the joint most 50-plus scores in fourth innings of Test matches in history, which is 13. He has the most fourth innings runs in the history of the sport. 39 Test hundreds now, which is fourth most in history, and he scored 3 in this series. 13 of his Test runs have come versus India. So 1/3 of his entire tally has been scored versus India. And the best bit is that up until 2021, so 2013 to 2021, he scores 1700s. Everyone's talking about his conversion rate and how that separates him from the rest of the Fab Four. And since the start of 2021, he scores 2200s. I think that he is the undisputed king of the 2020s as far as Test batsmanship is concerned. 2010s is Steve Smith, but 2020s has to be Joe Root. And he's not even that far from Sachin anymore.
I mean, in total runs. Yes.
I mean,
definitely.
it's 2,370 something, and it comes out to 66 runs per test if he goes on to play both cycles.
Here we go.
So there's a super chat on
Root
this.
needs to have his ODI supremacy. He's just boring to watch with those style. Would rather look at my floating turd than watch him bat. Yeah, no, not at all. Kunal, you're on there. No, that's to be a better batter than Sachin, which is a completely different argument that we're talking about there anyway. No, look, he's phenomenal. I don't think Harry Brook, as explosive and incredible as Harry Brook is, what we saw there was definitely something that needed the both of them to be able to do that. So I thought that was remarkable. Why don't we get to the super chats? Because I'm about to fall asleep, and I've now seen that there is
I haven't slept in eons, dude. So let's get
no
there.
one at Good Areas has slept in a while.
All right. So Samit Khan asks, on a scale, Anderson 13-14 Ashes to Hadley 85 Australia, where does Siraj 186 over epic rank? 5 tests, 25 days, 0 fuss, all fire, like a steam engine with a grudge, surely ends workhorse compliment as a whatever dig. Backhanded? I think he meant backhanded. He missed a K.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I was looking it up of like some of the most seamers that ever bowled. And he's not actually in the top 100, which is surprising. But he did go for the 16 most runs. But part of that is run inflation and everything else. Look, he's Siraj. He was sometimes hot and he was sometimes cold. He was generally in the game. And he's an incredible competitor. And he's incredibly talented. But he doesn't always know what he's doing. And that's what we saw here. And look, anyone who tries as hard as him, I'm going to do loads of analysis, and some of the analysis will be negative. But when you see someone try like that, and you can tell the difference between someone who does and doesn't, there's nothing you can do other than respect that.
Yeah. There's another Siraj super chat, by the way, Varun. You can bring him up since he's being discussed. We've got, who do we have over here? I'm pretty sure I saw one. Yeah, we've got Walking Alive who says, I'm just happy Siraj has his big moment. He was bowling great for a long time with not much luck. Also, Akashdeep had his moment in Edgbaston and Prasid today. So I feel like, the entire cricketing world is happy for Siraj because he is a hustler. He is the sort of dude who never quits. And that is his legacy. I feel like this was a legacy building series for him. Yes, he's skillful. He's got that 3/4 wobble seam delivery and he'll give it everything. Like his fastest delivery in the Test match was the last one where he cleans up Gus Atkinson.
What was it? How fast was that one?
143, I want to say, something like that.
No, the full toss he bowled the over before was a little bit quicker than that. But
okay. But it's one of the fastest deliveries.
Well, just to go to Laughing at Nothing, who says Siraj may be the fittest bowler in the world. I mean, I was next to Manthorpe and Coney, and we all looked at each other when that came up on the screen to be like, "What?" Because go back and read my piece from yesterday. There were times when I thought he was going to die on the field yesterday. How he manages to do that, he really is like just a machine when it comes to that sort of stuff. He played all 10 Test matches, right, of recent times.
against Australia and India. So he's an absolute workhorse. And, I love the fact that he is this cluster wicket taker, rhythm bowler, much like Stuart Broad or someone, right? So even if you look at his 4 for 86 in the first innings, his 3 wickets come in the same spell. Pope, Root and Bethel, all out LBW. And then he sends down 30.1 overs in the 4th innings to get his 5 for 105. I have no idea how he does it. He is a lion-hearted, relentless performer.
Also, just on skills, he obviously doesn't possess the normal wobble ball, but he has this other one, which is fantastic in its own way. But he also, when he needed to perfect outswing today, he perfected it.
Yeah,
now,
that's true.
Those aren't skills that everyone can go through between the two of them and perfect them. He bowled incredible outswing today. He didn't bowl serviceable outswing. He bowled incredible outswing today. And then he bowled like one, he tried to get the wobble ball back. He bowled one ball slightly down leg side, and then the next one was spot on and Overton was gone. Like the ability to go between 12 hooping outswingers and then be like, I need one to get my sight and the next one is out. It's just ridiculous. You could say what Siddharth said here.
Yeah, so Siddharth says, what were you cooking with that evocative Siraj video, Jarrod? Poetic that the very next day he comes out with a peak main character performance. You know what's great about this? Sorry, I'm kind of taking over here. He has that moment at Lord's. He middles the ball, it spins back and hits the wickets. And then he has the Harry Brook moment where it's a drop 6. And then he's the guy who ends up, getting all the plaudits. Like I said, dude, it's totally legacy building in this entire series.
You're right.
1,113 deliveries, Jarrod, and we're not even including the spell that he bowled to Harry Maguire, right? And then there's that incredible stat that with Bumrah in the attack, he averages... Yeah, Harry Maguire, Manchester United, he bowls a spell to him and Carrington or whatever. And then he has that terrific statistic where he's averaging around 35 with Bumrah in the 11 and less than 25 now without him. I mean, it's just absurd. And man, this guy is all heart. He wears his heart on his sleeve and he just never quits, man. And you just love to get behind those sort of characters.
Look, I wrote the piece because I thought India would have won if the game was played last night. And I thought there were too many things that could happen today that could take it in a different direction and India would lose. And I didn't want people to forget it. I didn't want people to forget the that spell. I wanted them to remember it. Yeah. I ended up being ahead of the game slightly, but I talked to so many people who know about cricket yesterday, and they were just like, it's one of the best two for spells they have ever seen. He was just exhausted, and they just kept throwing the ball back to him, and he just kept giving it his all every time. And, Neil Wagner, we've been blessed to watch Neil Wagner and, who's the other guy I was going to say? Neil Wagner and Ben Stokes. That's what they do. It's knowing that you shouldn't be able to keep bowling, and you refuse to stop. That, most bowlers just can't do that. Their bodies don't allow them, and their brains don't allow them.
To be fair, I know Siraj steals all the headlines and he's player of the match, but Prasidh Krishna was pretty much doing the same. 4 for 62 and 4 for 126, and that's 27 overs in the 4th innings. He's falling apart as well, and they're not taking him off, Jarrod, because they don't want to give the ball to Akashdeep. Like, that was the level of drama that we were witnessing. And this is a guy, Prasidh, who was all over the shop when the series starts. He has his best game in an Indian shirt to end the series. It is poetic. A lot of it is.
Yeah, it's... No, so Shyam said here he's apologising for you for geopolitical radio science. Okay. But explain what 25 days of cricket does on a bowler's body. So
there you go. Beyond the mental fatigue, of course.
Yeah. So we're just talking physical here. Let's say you're someone like Siraj and Anderson, who I think are built slightly different, right? They don't have... Josh Tongue probably can't do this. Ryan Harris played 5 test matches once and we never saw it. We saw him for like 2 or 3 after that and then he was done. Merv Hughes did a similar thing. But if you're looking at someone like Siraj or Anderson, they obviously have the tank to be able to do this, which is a really important thing. Anderson used to bowl really, really big, long spells back when he, before he got very old as well. But the impact that you are making each day. And so what happens is you warm yourself up, you throw yourself in for an hour, 45 minutes, whatever, however long your spell is. And then your body just gets stiff and it contracts, right? And then you have to do that again and again. So it's like you are literally going into some sort of, it's like going into like a really full-on airplane, right? But where everything hurts, and then coming out of the airplane and like trying to like decompress your body and then recompressing it again straight away over and over again. You get to the point where you probably, and this might not just be Siraj, but someone like Siraj probably doesn't have big toenails anymore. I know it's a little thing. Well, it's not a little thing, it's a big thing in this case. But his big toenails have probably gone off. He's probably got blood blisters all over his feet. He might just have an open wound on his foot as well. Some seam bowlers also get calluses on their fingers from pushing the ball out. So little things like that. And then you're talking about just the impact of you compressing your spine, your hip alignment, your knees, your ankles, right? All of the pressure that goes through that. Sometimes, after a 5-test series, you might be in a situation where a normal human being who does that, and I'm talking about a normal human being bowler, might find for the next month they can't get out of bed correctly, right? They can't touch their toes anymore, simple things like that. I think people like Anderson, Siraj, McGrath, Walsh are slightly different because I do think, whatever reason, their body doesn't react to that. But there won't be many parts of Siraj's body that isn't hurt. And the best way to explain it is, go and do a sport you haven't done in ages. So if you don't play tennis, go and play best of 3 sets of tennis with your friends, right? Don't worry about how you feel that day. Think about how you feel the next day when parts of your body are hurting that you haven't felt in ages. And then think, now you have to play another 3 sets of tennis, right? That's what fast bowlers do. And, I've been really lucky to have some, great friends who are fast bowlers. And that's how they explain it. It's not always the day. The day the energy pumps you up, it's the coming back, right? It's the coming back the next day and the next day. And then in Test cricket, adding an extra day to that, right? That's the thing that is so hard.
That's what makes these guys, Siraj and Ben Stokes, the ultimate competitors. Like, I've played 50 over games, and the next day after that, I'd be dead. I couldn't get out of bed, right? Just a 10 over spell.
Exactly. Like, when you're young and you're fit and you're light, like even as a leggy, if I would bowl, I would quite often bowl somewhere between 20 and 40 overs in a day sometimes as a leggy. And when I had to play the next day, I played like someone who had bowled 20 or 40 overs, right? That's just how these things go.
True. Anyway, Amit Singh asks, Jarrod, you're a big advocate for substitutes in cricket. How would we get days like this if we have substitutes? Doesn't that make our sport unique? Shouldn't it remain that way? Well, Amit, don't you think the sport would be richer if fresher guys would also come out there being direct subs and not injury subs?
I just watched the NBA playoffs, and Denver Nuggets had one guy who couldn't lift his arm above his head and another guy was limping, and they have 15-man rosters and only 5 men on the courts. Doesn't stop great performances from injured players, because your best players are going to want to get out there anyway. And we've seen that. We've seen injured players playing in football before, right? We've seen people with all sorts of things. So, no, it doesn't stop that, Amit.
Yeah. Anyway, next super chat. We've got to do a speed round at this point. We've got Samit Khan. He says, pre-Bazball, lose 3-1 in India, trail 1-2 at home. Bazball, lose 4-1 in India, draw 2-2 at home. Run a million miles, get nowhere, same results, more bluster. Does the progress deserve this level of branding, like calling toast caramelized, glutton crisp? Look, they win more now.
They've won twice as many test matches as they used to win before. I don't know why people... If you've got an issue with this, I get it. Go and look at the numbers. I've run them 1,000 times. They're averaging something like 8 runs more per wicket. They're finding ways to get wickets with a bowling attack that isn't even as good as it used to be.
Yeah.
You've got to give them credit for that.
Absolutely.
Look, if you don't like the nonsense of Bazball, most of us fucking don't. But they've won more games than before, and they have got... They've got match-winning performances out of players who I don't even think should be in Test cricket, right? Like, I don't think Zach Crawley should be playing, or Ollie Pope is even at this level at the moment. They might be in a couple of years, but they shouldn't be now. And they get match-winning performances out of these guys, and they do it by being a bit full of themselves and up their own anuses, but it's working.
We all hate the dogmatic part of Bazball, but let's not kid ourselves that it hasn't worked better for them than what they were doing before, okay? It's better than Dom Sibley. Let's just all be clear about that. Anyway, next super chat, please. Who do we have? We've got Somyan Mishra. He asks, with 2 more World Test Championship points than England, India mathematically win the series, isn't it? I suppose so.
There's a count back. Hey, that's a great count back.
Some people will say that India won the series morally as well.
I like that. I hadn't even thought of that.
Yeah. People will have different opinions on that, I suppose. But anyway, next up, we've got Chira. He asks, or she asks, so they ask, it feels more like an Indian win rather than a draw. While both teams didn't feel like they were dominating the game at any point, India had more grit and the Indian fight back was a treat to watch. Your thoughts? I think it's what Jarrod said. The last 6.5 days, it's been, India doing better. So that's why we have that feeling.
Yeah. I think if you're really being honest about it, Chira, like there was... India celebrated it massively in the moment, and then afterwards they celebrated it a bit more like a draw. So I don't know if it felt as in the ground. I felt like they instantly thought win, and then they went, oh, actually we've drawn the series. So I don't really agree with what you're saying. As someone who was there with the other 25,000 odd people, it didn't feel like that in there. But it's a comeback. Right? That's what it feels like. Yeah. It feels like a team that came back. I don't think it feels all that differently than England coming back to draw series. Was it 2019 and 2023? Like, I think it felt similar to that, where one team was ahead and the other team sort of comes back. And so it's a draw, but it's a draw where you feel like we're coming home.
Anyway, I feel like the momentum was with India, and then they have the dramatic fairy tale finish. So I understand why you feel that way. And I kind of feel that way as well. I feel like India would be the happier two sides because they were playing away. Anuj Sharma asks, do you agree from Gautam Gambhir choosing Harry Brook as player of the series from England, and which player will both of you pick as player of the series from both teams? I thought it was hilarious. I'm not generally a fan of his selections. Let's be real. Harry Brook was not a better candidate than Ben Stokes and Joe Root. And that's not to take anything away from Harry Brook. I thought he was phenomenal in this test match. 53 in the first innings with that fall over Rishabh Pant scoop as well. Then he's dropped on 19 and gets his 50 and 39 balls, 191 balls, and ends up with like 111 in 98. And he's the one who plays that disruptive number 5 knock, and he has England, literally, or India literally sweating. Do you think, Jarrod, that he kind of throws it away, though? Because they only needed 73 runs with 7 wickets in hand.
I think what started to happen was the ball started to swing, and he realized he needed to make one last push. And unfortunately for him, he hit the ball straight up in the air. And I think he'd hit 2 fours in a row, right, before that ball, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yes,
he hits a third 4 there. Akash is done, right? They're down to 2 bowlers, and I was watching Prashid Krishna. I don't know how much more he was going to be able to get out of himself if he came back on. Harry Brook's doing the same maths in his head that I'm doing, right?
True.
This ball's swinging. Let's whack it around a little bit. Maybe they have to bring on Washington or Jadeja while the ball's swinging and things change. That's how you play this game. But India were too good. But as far as player of the series, I don't really ever look at things all that much. I probably, if you asked me without thinking at all, I would have said Ben Stokes. But I'm not sure I care that much about any of these things.
I feel like Root and Stokes were better candidates than Brook, and Brook had a good series, but for me, it's Stokes. There's your answer. Soumyan Mishra once again says England scored 376 runs per innings on average this series. If they score 80% of that, every innings down under, their out-of-form batting lineup will falter big time.
If they make 300 in every innings in Australia, they will win that series by such a fucking... What are you talking about? Have you seen the pitches in Australia? If they make 300 on those wickets, not to mention the fact Australia doesn't have a single player in their top 3 that they are sure is even going to be playing in that series at the moment.
True. So I feel like getting runs in that series is going to be tough anyway, right? Because Australian
I think England have a better batting lineup. Yeah, I think England have a better batting lineup than Australia at the moment. That may not be the case.
They have the better bowling lineup.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Which is why I probably still lean towards Australia. I usually pick the better bowling lineups. Yeah. But it gives England a big chance, I think. If Australia is going to be 40 for 3 every game, right, which at the moment looks like a chance. I mean, Smith and Head are going to have to be in way too early. And it gives England a big chance of the series. But England aren't a great bowling lineup. There's nothing about this series that has changed my theory on that at all. Yeah. Jofra coming back certainly does help, but how many tests he can play, blah, 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 blah. Either way, if you could make 300 every game in Australia on the wickets over there, I think you'd take that.
Absolutely. And I mean, if you have Jofra and Kaas and Mark Wood, then maybe they have a shot. Anyway, next super chat. How many super chats are there? Holy fuck. Anyway, Anish asks, Jarrod, how the fuck did you have so much belief in Washington Sundar? Anish, do you watch this podcast? There's a holy trinity over here of Najmul Hussain Shanto, DDS, and Washington Sundar. And I've even rebranded him as Smashington Sundar after his recent knock. We love him over here.
I saw him as a teenager. To be a teenager at that level who has the the ability to spin the ball, place it in the right area, bowl with a new ball, right? Work his way through problems because he was still developing as a bowler, right?
Yeah.
The ability to bat anywhere from 1 to 7 is really, really rare. And again, at a young age, that shows an incredibly adaptable mind. The fact he's played as a top order player. Yeah. So
with different people.
No, but I'm talking about back when he was a no one and everyone didn't like him. He's best, if you look at him biomechanically and you compare him to, say, Shoaib Bashir. Shoaib Bashir might still become a good test bowler, right? But if you compare him biomechanically, Washington Sundar looks like a really good bowler. And then you look at someone who can bat top order in first-class cricket, like higher than Sam Curran can, right? And also has the game to adapt to lower in the order. He can field. He's a smart cricketer.
Yeah.
The other thing I would say is all-rounders usually develop late. So the problem is that most people lump on these guys when they're young. Mitch Marsh, at one stage, had one of the worst batting records in the history of Test cricket, right? And then he developed late in his career and got good. And if his back and hamstring still work, he would have taken more wickets as well. It's very common with all-rounders.
Yeah, and there's another super chat over here by Bart881, which is kind of teetering along the same lines. He says, as a long-time Washies promoter, how vindicated do you feel after his actualization this series? Also, what about this series surprised you the most from either team? I think we're all happy for Washi or really glad that he did well.
Yeah. Yeah, but even if he hadn't, I wouldn't feel that you're just trying to make your predictions based on things that you could see that you think will be repeatable and will work, right? Like sometimes I'm right and the player doesn't go on. I still really like, there's a player called Chandrapal Hemraj from the West Indies. I've seen him up close. I know how talented he is, right? But if I told you that and you saw his record, you'd be like, wow, he's a dud. Sometimes these things take time, and sometimes they never happen. What surprised you most about this series?
You should take a look at Jewel Andrew, by the way, from the West Indies, really talented cricketer.
Yes, I do. Yeah. I have had a little look there. What surprised me most about this series? It has to be the Bumrah played in the matches that they didn't win, right? And then probably how good and consistently good Stokes' bowling was. It's not that I didn't think he had it in him, but at his age to be all-rounders don't usually get really good at bowling in their mid-30s. Like, that is way later than normal.
Yeah. Kuldeep not playing surprised me. I thought he'd get a game. Palash Sasidharan asks, if South Africa lost like England, South Africa would be termed chokers. Was this a choke, though? It was kind of on a knife's edge, the game, right? Like, I don't know.
There was a period when Akash wasn't bowling well and Prashid couldn't come back on. Do you remember? Because I told you it was over in the chat.
Yeah.
I said, it's over now.
I was the only one, Jarrod, who was saying it's not over in the chat.
It was over at that point, and then the ball started swinging again, and so that brought them back in. Once the ball started swinging, it was on, and I don't care which team. It was so dark, right? And in this match, when it was swinging and it was dark, people really struggled. When it was swinging and it was light, people didn't have the same sort of trouble, and when it wasn't swinging, we saw really good batting at times, right? So. From my perspective, you can call it a choke if you want. I don't give a shit. We don't really talk about South Africa choking either. We usually talk about it from a different perspective. If you want to care, you can care.
There's a foot marks on it you can go watch, but not a choke for me. Anish asks, where are we going from here? Well, if you guys hadn't made this a wagon wheel, we would go to sleep, Jarrod and I.
Yeah, we would be in bed. That's where we'd be going.
Soumyan Mishra asks again, absolutely love Jarrod's work with Harmy, Neil and Jeremy on TalkSport this series. Same goes to Ben Jones and Daniel Norcross. Superb coverage. Kudos to all of you guys.
Thank you very much. I will pass it on to all the various men.
Paleo Party asks, love listening to Jarrod on TalkSport and received his book this week and bought 3 books for a library my mother runs in Delhi. Thanks for writing. Lovely.
My mum is also a librarian, so as people with mums as librarians, we're in a I don't know, some sort of group together. I don't know what I'm saying.
All of you watching this, go be like Paleo Party and buy 4 books. Art of Batting. Vimal Menon asks, why has England found the right talent for baseball? I don't think India, Australia have this kind of aggre, fast-scoring firepower. His hitting is phenomenal. Well, England transitioned to baseball because nothing else was working, and they were like, hey, we've got some good strikers, ball strikers. Let's try this.
Yeah, it's a long story. I have written about it before, Vermal. Basically, it goes back to the Pro 40 days of cricket and the way that England was playing in Pro 40 cricket, which is more how they play, eventually how they played in ODI cricket. And here, it's also to do with the fact that England players probably spend more time with ball machines and throwdowns, although India's starting to catch up very much now. And so they sort of just trust that if the ball is in this position, they can play this shot and this shot.
Yeah.
Whereas maybe in other countries, it's still a little bit more people facing net bowlers and everything else, which does mean sometimes some of the skills that people like Zach Crawley and Ollie Pope need aren't available to them compared to someone like Jaiswal, who's a little bit more rounded.
Yeah, and the cultural shift from the white hot revolution, I think, also plays a part, because that's when the talent pool becomes more aggressive, and then baseball is a later iteration of that in a different format. Lentils asks, the difference between top 6 teams and next 6 so glaringly obvious, making tiers system make so much sense. But West Indies, Pakistan and Bangladesh not ready to accept it. Why? Of course they won't be ready to accept tier 2. Like, isn't that obvious?
I mean, if it was promotion and relegation, just because they're the top 6 test teams now doesn't mean they're going to be the top 6 for the next 5 years. Like Pakistan could be better. Pakistan or Bangladesh could be better than New Zealand or Sri Lanka in like anywhere in between the next 3 and 10 years. If we don't have promotion and relegation, those other teams are gone forever. Like I've got no problem. Whoever the top 6 teams are should be in Division 1. I would say top 7, but same shit, right? Yeah. They should be in Division 1. Absolutely no argument from me on that. But
as long as they're
allowed to go back to Division 2 as well, when they're not very good.
Relegation.
Otherwise, it's the same stupid system we have now. We're just cutting off a couple of teams to make it easier to plan.
And then, it should be merit-based. If England are relegated, then England are relegated. All right? Anyway. All right, who's the next one? Anuj Sharma asks, how will you rate Karun, Sudarshan, Sundar, Jamie Smith, Gus Atkinson, Josh Tong, future
How would we rate 19 different people? I'm going to say hot, 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 hot. None of them are not. There you go.
Yeah, there you go, man. We can't go through all of that. Adi the Bug Catcher, very generous super chats. Thank you, Adi. He says, catching you guys live after a long time, but Behram put it really well. Smith ruled 2010s and Root has been ruling 2020s. Really amazing player. Makes you want to pick up a cricket bat and copy him. He is quite aesthetically pleasing to watch as well, isn't he?
He is. If you're, it's a bit like the Steve Waugh conundrum back in the day of, do you want your kid to bat like Sachin and Lara? Obviously you do, but you probably got more chance of making them bat like Steve Waugh. And I think Joe Root is the one that's easiest to copy, because a lot of what he does should translate to other people, but he's just an absolute genius at it.
Yeah, never gets injured either. Anyway, Soumyan Mishra with like the 5th super chat of the day, if I've got my math right. Says Root is the only 90s kid to score 10k plus runs in Test cricket. Man's a legitimate all-time legend in my books. The trip down under is going to take him to a god-level pedestal if he already isn't there. Mark my words. So just quickly on this, everything you've said is true. I feel like that's the final frontier. If he wants to really, amplify his legacy, he needs at least a ton in Australia, because he doesn't have one yet.
No, it would be great for him if he gets a couple. He certainly deserves it in his talent. And I'm just sick and tired of listening to people talk about it at a certain point. The same as I was about Ricky Ponting in India. Like, do you know what I mean? I just want those guys to get there. He's already in the top 15 best test batters of all time. If you buy my book, which have I got it here? There we go.
Yeah. And I definitely am rooting for him. Anyway, Anish asks, I DM'd Jarrod on Twitter yesterday to know if India is winning or not. Sorry, Jarrod, I was very anxious after bad light ending the day, LOL. Hey, I predicted that they would win, and people gave me shit for it.
I'll say this. If you're asking people to make predictions, you're just asking people to lie to you.
Because it is like everything.
It's just made up. I don't know why people. I walk out the ground and everyone's like, Jarrod, who's fucking? I don't know, dude. A UFO could land on the fucking outfield tomorrow. Like, just enjoy the games.
It was fresh legs versus heavy roller. I went for fresh legs, but again, take it with an ounce of salt, guys. I'm not Nostradamus. Adi the Bug Catcher once again says, sending another super chat just to support the show. I always learn so much things listening to you guys. Great work. Thanks a bunch, Adi. We appreciate the super chats, man. Really generous. Kunav Putur says or asks, Siraj does not seem to break down physically as compared to other fast bowlers. Is there something he's doing right? Didn't you answer this already, Jarrod?
Yeah, I just think he has one of those bodies, right? The Walsh, McGrath, Hadley, whoever you want it to be.
Tony Stark.
I just think that, they're all lighter frames, those guys, which might be part of it. But it's probably just about supple ankle, knee, hip things would be my guess. I mean, all of them should be studied. Siraj and Anderson are probably, they're not that similar in body type, but they're not that far away, I would have thought.
Yeah, I suppose so. They are both lean, and he has a very repeatable action, Siraj. So, I mean, that's probably part of it. Next super chat, please. We've got the scene uploader. He says, team sat down on field post game over beer, I hope. Well, yeah, it wasn't like the Ashes now, was it? No one stumped Bairstow off a fast bowler. So, of course,
I was there pretty late and I didn't see either team come out. So sometimes that happens. Generally, when there's families, the families are the ones that sort of drag them out because the kids want to play on the grass. I didn't see them come out. Doesn't mean that they didn't exchange between each change room, but I didn't see that. But I'd be surprised if there wasn't some sort of thing.
Yeah.
There usually is. Even, I've been at much more riled up series than this, and generally there is something that happens at the end.
Yeah. Plus, they both captains and everyone had admiration for the other team. I don't think there was any animosity towards the end. Nishant Pandey asks, I don't think Gautam Gambhir likes Root a lot. Have seen him calling him a stat padder and he cusses him a lot as well. By the way, will Gigi ever get a fourth seamer now in the team?
I mean, if Washington keeps batting the way he is, they can easily... Washington or Jadeja bat 6 and the other one bat 7 and they can bring
Jarrod,
an extra seamer in.
I want Washington to become a false 3. At least in India, I want that.
I think that's also a possibility going ahead.
He could become the Gill delayer. He has the game to delay Gill's entry point. I feel like it could work. Varun will hate me for this. He gets triggered. Yeah. Anyway, let's move on. Karthikeya Nagaraj. He asks, thanks for the photo on day 4, Jarrod. Thoughts on having the Indian women's tour at the same time? I really enjoy the women's games too and would like it more often.
I don't like that because I can't cover both or can't follow both. So for me, it doesn't work. But I would assume for a fan who's tuning in, it works really, really well. And I think they feed each other. It's funny when, especially working in the cricket, I notice how many people pay more attention to it because they're both happening at the same time, but they can't cover both. And there is a bit of that. But yeah, anything that can help men's and women's cricket, let's do it.
100% on board. We've got Pranav Gurunathan. I think that's how you say your name. He asks, you all seen Emilio Gay bat should replace Pope?
Whoa.
Hey, he plays for Italy.
Exactly. How dare you take Italy's finest cricket? Also, maybe one of the best players ever from Grenada. I'm pretty sure he qualifies for Grenada as well. If they ever go on their great island.
Yeah. Don't say Joe Burns should bat a 3 for England now. I'm going to have issues with you. Adi the Bug Catcher with another very, very generous super chat. He says, adding a tier system of 6 teams in cricket is the complete opposite of what we need if we are to promote the sports further. Again, do it merit-based, have promotion relegation.
Yeah.
I think it still works.
No, we need... There's nothing wrong with the tier system. You don't deserve to be at the top of your game because 100 years ago, people liked having holidays where you lived, right? When it comes down to it, there's no reason why we don't have promotion relegation. We shouldn't have test status. Everyone should be allowed to play a test match, but I've talked about this before a million times.
Yeah, we'll touch that some other day. Beyond the Boundaries Monologues asks, how well followed is radio coverage for test matches? I follow them exclusively on TMS from the US and think test cricket is perfect for radio.
It really is a sport that... So TalkSport, obviously, they get, football is their major sport. They can't even believe the numbers that when cricket is on the radio, how much they get. It is such a soundtrack to, I'd say a little bit in South Africa, New Zealand, Australia, England, and West Indies really love cricket radio, right? They really do. It's a really important thing. Sadly, it never quite took off in the way in Asia that I wish it had, because you get a good call. You get Tim Lane on the radio, or some great radio commentator, Keith Stackpole, the guys I grew up listening to. It's like listening to a novel in front of you. It really is absolutely brilliant.
They don't know how to do it over here. I've done radio commentary for a bit. It's just not an art that many possess. Popeye, the FPV sailor, says, hey, Jarrod and Kazi. Number 1, best cricketer of the series. Number 2, Ashes scorecard. Number 3, what do India have to do to become the Steve Waugh, Ricky Ponting Australian team? All right, then. I suppose Shubman Gill is the best cricketer of the series. I don't know. Siraj took 23 wickets.
Ashes scorecard, I'll give you that one. I think I'm back on Australia 3-2 after watching the series. What do India have to do to become Steve Waugh, Ricky Ponting team? They have to win at home and away consistently, and all the big series. And they're allowed to have one blotch on their card. But yeah, that's what they have to do. Yeah. They weren't far off doing it a while back.
2-2 in the Ashes for me, by the way. I think England will surprise us. And Stokes and Root also had great series. Adi the Bug Catcher once again says, Washington at 3 is a great idea. Okay, this was my last super chat. Won't keep you up longer. Have a good night, guys. Well, thank you for all the money, buddy. I think you pretty much covered my salary in the super chats today. Yeah, thanks a bunch. I really... Stokes Moral Code. Brilliant name. asks the question, what thing are you guys discussing about England have the moral victory again and now Crawley and Pope going to destroy Cummins, Boland and co. Bring on the Ashes. Do they?
I think he's just saying that because that's his tag, man.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone thinks after today England had the moral victory. Absolutely not at all. But
anyway, that brings an end to our super chats. Honestly, the super chats were longer than the actual podcast, but thank you so much for them and all of your other interactions in the comment section.
And look, just on this series, thanks for supporting Third Innings as well. I know I can't do it because I'm at the ground. Thanks for supporting us on TalkSport and all the different things we do on TalkSport. Thanks for going over and helping Behram on his other channels that aren't even on here. We've done 2 live videos today. We've got another video coming out. So this will be our 3rd video for the day. This won't be our only video from this test either. Obviously me and Robbie will talk about it. There'll be a wagon wheel, which I'm sure I'll get some questions. And me and Behram are going to do another video just about that final hour as well. So thank you to everyone for your support. This has been a full-on series for us as a company and as human beings, and we all want to sleep.
Yeah, the numbers are great. Thank you for all of your love and support. And I mean, you can support us even further because these podcasts are powered by our supporters on Patreon. Go to Patreon/Good Areas Podcast. Become a supporter. Watch ad-free content. Slag me off, in the chat and give us recommendations. And it's a lot of fun. We're like a very inclusive, happy community. We've got Jessica, the Transmetal Alchemist over here, who's sending us hearts. She is like the super follower that we have, and lots of other fun people like that. And once again, thank you. It's been an absolute privilege covering this series on multiple platforms. We're all exhausted. We're burnt out. And thank you for all of your views and your love. And just a quick reminder, you can also go to goodareas.co, bookmark that webpage, and you can follow us over there entirely. All of our written pieces and videos and podcasts can be found over there. That's all for now, folks. Have a good one. Rest easy, England and India fans, and congratulations on one hell of a series. That's all for today, folks. Goodbye.
Cricket boards actually make watching their games almost impossible now. I spend almost as much time trying to find where I can view it as I do actually following the action. That is why I use NordVPN. They let me find all the cricket I want to watch while protecting me from the nasty side of the internet. Nord will free your cricket matches. Grab your exclusive NordVPN deal by going to nordvpn/good areas to get a huge discount off your NordVPN plan plus 4 additional months on top. It's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. Watch every match with NordVPN.